So we're back with another Icejade video, and this time we have Tearjades, an Icejade variant that can take advantage of all the milling that Tearlaments can do, so we can send Icejades from the deck to the graveyard, because that's where Icejades like to be. And because I had more than 45 cards in the deck, I decided to add Grass Looks Greener for some extra mills. But if you can find a way to bring this deck down to 40 cards, then you won't need Grass Looks Greener. Time Thief, Redoer, and Grapha Dragon Overlord would be good additions to this deck, but I'm not willing to spend more crafting points on this deck, because I do think Tearlament is going to get gutted in a future ban list, and perhaps even right around the corner if Kashtira is in the next selection pack. Tearlaments also have water monsters like Rhinoheart and Rolkalos, so they can trigger Icejade graveyard effects when destroyed. Rhinoheart can be special summoned from the hand with Icejade Tremora, and Tearlament Rolkalos is a water monster that can special summon itself if it's sent to the graveyard, so the opponent is going to try to remove Rolkalos without destroying it. You can pair this with Icejade Erosion, which lets you special summon an Icejade from the deck if any of your water monsters are removed from the field, except if they are destroyed. So this deck does rely on milling cards to the graveyard, using Kelbeck, Kitkalos, Agito, and many more cards. Your end board's going to rely on what cards you mill to the graveyard. Now, Icejades do have cards like Icejade Acti and Tanola, which can send cards from your hand to the graveyard. These Icejade effects will not trigger the effects of Tearlament when sent to the graveyard. However, Tanola will trigger the effect of Agito and Kelbeck, allowing you to mill 5 cards from the top of your deck, and then special summoning a water monster from the graveyard. And because Agito and Kelbeck mill 5 cards from both players' deck, you'll be able to use Icejade Manifestation, which lets you summon an Icejade from the deck if your opponent has a monster on the field or in their graveyard. You will also be able to use the Icejade Field spell to add any of the Icejades that you mill from the graveyard to your hand. If you use the field spell to add Cosmic Lore to your hand, then you'll be able to use Cosmic Lore to either shut down your opponent's monster effects or to summon Egyptian God Slime. You will also be able to fusion summon into Egyptian God Slime using the effects of your Tearlament monsters with Icejade Cosmic Lore. And if you summon Egyptian God Slime, then you're going to want to summon it in a zone that Sprite Elf points to. This is because Egyptian God Slime has the effect your opponent cannot target with card effects any monsters you control except Egyptian God Slime. But because it's in a zone that Sprite Elf points to, which makes it untargetable, then together these monsters make it so your opponent cannot target any of your monsters at all. So the opponent summons a Crusadia Link monster to target one card on the field and negate its effect. They can't target any of our monsters because of the L Slime lock. Egyptian God Slime also has the effect, if your opponent targets a monster for attack, they have to attack Egyptian God Slime. And Guardian Slime cannot be destroyed by battle. So in this replay, we're going second against Dogmatika. So the first thing we're going to try to do is bait any interruptions with our Icejade cards. We want to resolve our Tearlament cards last because those cards are going to be our bigger combo. So the opponent just looked into the extra deck and sent Sword Soul Chenging into the graveyard. The opponent's going to activate a card in response to target and destroy it, but will activate Adrian's effect, special summoning Ajiro Casey's. They'll target and destroy Ajiro Casey's. Will then activate the field spell. They negate the activation with a counter trap. The Evil Eye Equip spell increases the attack of its equipped monster by 500 attack every time it uses its effect. So we'll special summon our Rhinoheart with Icejade Tremora, sending Shirin to the graveyard. So we'll fusion summon using Ajiro Casey's into our Tearlament Kitkalos. So we want to send Kitkalos to the graveyard so we can mill 5 cards. So the opponent is going to special summon a monster, Dogmatika Flaudelis the Knighted. They will use its effect to negate Kitkalos. We'll activate Tearlament Grief, special summoning a Merly from the deck so we can send our Kitkalos to the graveyard. And Merly activates on special summon, milling the top 3 of our cards, and Kitkalos mills the top 5. We'll activate Havness and then Tearlament Scream. Scream adds a Tearlament Trap card to the hand. And Havness lets us fusion summon using Chenging from the graveyard into a Guardian Slime. Now if we want to summon Sprite Elf, we will have to link away Tearlament's Merly with another monster. So we're going to summon it in the extra monster zone where it points to Egyptian God Slime. So now the opponent cannot target our monsters, and they cannot be destroyed by battle. So the opponent summons a Link 3 that targets for destruction, It is a quick effect that can target any of our cards on the field. But because they can't target any of our monsters, they'll have to target our trap card. The trap card, when sent to the graveyard, lets us add a Tearlament monster from the graveyard to our hand. So we're just going to pass our turn. So they just negated the effect of one of their own monsters, so their Evil Eye Equip spell can increase the attack of their Link monster by 500. In the main phase 1, we'll activate Sprite Elf, bringing back our Merly. Merly then mills the top 3 cards of our deck to the graveyard, so we didn't get lucky enough to mill anything with any graveyard effects. So the opponent is going to Ritual Summon into Albazoa. And now they just looked into the extra deck to send Chenging to the graveyard. And now we'll have to send some more of our extra deck monsters to the graveyard. So it looks like the opponent doesn't have any non-target removal, so they're not going to be able to out this board. But they still will be able to go into the battle phase and do a little bit of damage. So, main phase 1, we'll normal summon Rhino Heart, send a Sheeran to the graveyard, so we can then fusion summon into Rakalos. And we don't have an out for Albazoa, so we're just going to have to go into the battle phase. Now I'm trying to get Merly in the graveyard, but I forgot Rakalos does not let other Aqua monsters I control be destroyed by battle. So the opponent activates Albazoa, and we use it to send Kitkalos to the graveyard. Using Kitkalos' effect, we send 5 cards from the top of our deck, and we activate Scream, letting us add a trap card to our hand. And we are running out of extra deck monsters. The opponent tries to special summon a Dogmatika, and we will negate it with Rakalos. Rakalos will send Merly to the graveyard so we can activate its graveyard effect to fusion summon. We use Maduro to shuffle some extra deck monsters back into the deck, so we can then fusion summon using the Kitkalos into a Tearlament Kaleido Heart. We use Kaleido Heart to shuffle the Evil Eye spell back into the deck. And there goes Kitkalos. Egyptian God Slime for the win. In the end phase, we'll equip Aegirocasis to Adrian. And in the main phase 1, we'll special summon Aegirocasis so we can synchro summon into Icejade Jameer Adrian. We'll then normal summon Baby Adrian, adding the field spell to our hand, using the field spell to add a Tremora to the hand. And we want to lower the opponent's attack with the field spell, so we're going to have to make some room here by linking away 2 water monsters into Morentis Coral Anemone. Then activate the field spell, targeting Guardian Slime to lower all of their monsters by 3,000. And they only have 5,000 life points left, so they will concede. So we're going first. We're going to activate Icejade Cradle, see if we can bait an Ash Blossom. We're going to normal summon Baby Adrian. Looks like the opponent doesn't have an Ash Blossom, so we're going to special summon Sheeran. And the opponent responds with Max Z. So it looks like we're not going to be able to do a big combo here. We'll use Sheeran to send Maduro to the graveyard. So we send a Kelbeck to the graveyard. We're going to go ahead and activate that, mill 5 cards from the top of our opponent's deck to see what they're playing. And it looks like they're playing Traptrix. Using Kitkalos, we'll add a Tearlament Merly to the hand, and then set 2 trap cards and pass our turn. The opponent banishes a Traptrix card to special summon a Traptrix monster from the graveyard. We're going to go ahead and activate Maduro, sending that Traptrix monster back into the deck. They activate a normal summoned monster. We're going to respond to that normal summon with Havness, and they hit us with a second Maxi. And that is the price you pay if you're going to play on both players' turn. We'll activate Scream in the graveyard to add a trap card to our hand. So the opponent's going to activate a field spell that's going to let them extend, and we're going to go ahead and negate that with Icejade Erosion, destroying Baby Adrian. But we have a Tremora in the graveyard. We will banish it to special summon Adrian, so we can add a field spell to our hand. The opponent's going to set 5 cards and pass their turn. We will equip Baby Adrian with Agirocasis. And in the standby phase, the opponent summons a trap monster. And on our main phase 1, we'll summon Agirocasis and Synchro Summon with Havness into a Baron de Flor. The opponent's forced to flip over Solemn Judgment, getting rid of that Baron de Flor. We're going to activate Kikalos, sending itself to the graveyard and special summoning Merly. The opponent responds with Called by the Grave, but we're going to negate that with Erosion. Using a Trap Hole card, the opponent's going to send Merly back into the deck. But Merly is still going to activate, milling 3 cards from the top of the deck, with Kit Kalos milling 5. Now we have Havness, Merly, and we're going to chain Heartbeat. And we also have a Guido. The opponent's going to negate Negito with Chain Hole, banishing a card from our hand. Heartbeat lets us add a trap card from the graveyard to our hand. With Merly, we're going to fusion summon with Kit Kalos in the graveyard into a Tearlament Roll Kalos. Using Havness from the graveyard, we will fusion summon into a Tearlament Kaleido Heart. The opponent only has 3,000 life points left and no back row, and with that the opponent scoops. So in this free play, we're going to activate Tearlament Scream. The opponent responds with Max C, so we're not going to be doing any big combos here. Now we can activate Grass Looks Greener, and we happen to mill Merly and a Kelbeck. Using Kelbeck, we'll send 5 cards from the top of both players' deck to the graveyard, and then fusion summoning with Merly into a Tearlament Kit Kalos. We'll then activate Havness and Scream. Scream mills 3 cards, Havness fusion summons into a Tearlament Kaleido Heart. And Kit Kalos is going to add Havness to our hand. We're going to set our trap card, and we're going to set a water monster face down, hoping our opponent destroys it. We do have an Icejade Tanola in the graveyard and an Icejade Adrian, and Duster destroyed our back row. Scream's graveyard effect, adding a trap card to our hand, and we will use Sullik to add Tearlament Sheeran to the hand. And the opponent does know we have a Tearlament Havness in the hand, and because Havness is a win effect that can only respond to effects that activate on the field, the opponent is activating monster effects on the field and then chaining effects that activate off the field to avoid triggering Tearlament's Havness. So the opponent's going to link summon into Nightmare Unicorn, and then activating its effect by discarding 1 card as a cost, and then chaining a graveyard effect to it, avoiding Tearlament Havness. And Unicorn's going to shuffle our Kaleido Heart into the deck. Oh, they're going to banish a Tearlament Sheeran from the graveyard. Bestial Jerusalem is going to go to the graveyard, and then target Kit Kalos, sending it to the graveyard. We're going to activate Kit Kalos, and the opponent uses that Ash Blossom. The opponent finally triggers a monster effect on the field, so we're going to activate Havness, Special Summoning Havness to mill the top 3 cards of our deck. And we do get a hit here with Tearlament Merly and Tearlament Rhinoheart. Rhinoheart's gonna Special Summon and then send a Tear card from the hand to the graveyard. And Merly's gonna Fusion Summon using Kitkalos from the graveyard into a Tearlament Ralkalos. The Sheeran we discarded with Rhinoheart's gonna trigger, and we're gonna activate Rhinoheart when Special Summoned to send a Tearlament Havness to the graveyard. Sheeran will then resolve, allowing us to Fusion Summon into a Tearlament Kaleidoheart. And we will use Kaleidoheart to shuffle one of their Link monsters back into the deck. Then we'll chain Tearlament's Havness to Fusion Summon into a Muddragon of the Swamp. And it looks like we shuffled the wrong one back into the deck because now they can Link Summon into their Link 5 Boral End Dragon. Boral End can attack each of our monsters once per turn. A water monster was destroyed, so we're going to banish Tanola from the graveyard to Special Summon Icejade Adrian. And because Icejade Adrian is an Aqua monster, it cannot be destroyed by battle. Other Aqua monsters other than Tearlament Ralkalos cannot be destroyed by battle while Ralkalos is on the field. Misplays and then destroys Ralkalos, though they still were able to negate Adrian. Though Boral End negates the effects of monsters permanently. And there goes all of our monsters except Adrian. Now we're going to normal summon Merly, so they're going to chain their continuous spell, allowing them to special summon a Bestial monster. Droofsworm is back on the field. We end up milling Rhinoheart, discarding a trap card from our hand. We'll activate Rhinoheart and send Sheeran to the graveyard. We use the trap card to add Tearlament Rhinoheart from the graveyard to our hand. And using Sheeran, we'll Special Summon Kitkalos. Boral End will negate Kitkalos, which is fine, so we won't be able to use Kitkalos to mill 5 cards. But we will be able to Link Summon into Sprite Elf. Sprite Elf will Special Summon Diviner of the Herald. Diviner of the Herald will then send a Guido to the graveyard, so we will still be able to mill those 5 cards from the top of our deck. And we hit a Tearlament Merly. Merly will then Fusion Summon, using the Kitkalos from the graveyard into a Tearlament Ralkalos. We'll activate the Icejade Field spell from our hand, adding a Tremor from the graveyard to our hand, and then Special Summoning Rhinoheart from the hand. Using the field spell will lower their attack. And with Diviner and Rhinoheart, we'll Synchro Summon into a Changing. Using 2 water monsters, we'll Link Summon into Coral Anemone. Rhinoheart is then banished when it leaves the field, allowing us to banish Boral End and Bestial Lobelian from the graveyard. Coral Anemone will then Special Summon Adrian from the graveyard, allowing us to add Icejade Curse, locking down the opponent with a Curse Lock. So the opponent is more likely to send Changing to the graveyard with Droofsworm, so we're going to go ahead and attack Droofsworm with Changing. And I did forget to equip Adrio Casey's earlier. We're just going to go ahead and equip it now and then pass our turn. On the opponent's turn, we'll activate Elf. Bringing back Diviner. Diviner will then send a fairy to the graveyard. We'll use it to send Kelbeck. Kelbeck then mills 5 cards from the top of our deck. And we hit a Tearlament Havness. We'll Fusion Summon with Havness and Changing into Egyptian God Slime, into a zone that Sprite Elf points to. And now our board is immune from targeting effects, and the opponent cannot activate monster effects. Without the ability to target our monsters and without any way to activate monster effects on their turn, I don't see the opponent being able to break this board. Now the opponent is summoning a Bestial, and I can negate this with Ralkalos, but I'm just going to save the Ralkalos for something that I think might threaten this board. So the opponent's going to set 2 cards and then pass their turn. So Diviner is now level 2, so we're going to use it to Synchro Summon with Rakalos into a Baron de Flor. The opponent's going to Special Summon Drewsworm. Then we're going to unequip Adrio Casey's, use the field spell, and then Synchro Summon into an Icejade Jameer. Now our board is looking pretty spicy. You cannot target, you cannot banish, and you cannot destroy, and you cannot activate monster effects. So they're not going to be able to out this board with Drewsworm, and Tearjades will take the win. And that's all for now. I'll see you guys next time.